Alright guys, today we're talking about GUNTANK and whether you should main it, and I do have to start this video off by making a little bit of a disclaimer. I know this character has a lot of heated opinions on it, and I'm going to try and be as objective as possible when I do this one in particular, but yeah, don't get too mad at me, guys. So starting off, GUNTANK is a medium-range hit-scan mobile suit that is considered a learner's mobile suit. Its primary fire deals low damage to up to 3 mobile suits with a large auto-aim reticle. Its secondary fire allows it to aim down the sights, making it a smaller aim reticle and make it deal more damage to a single target. It has 1200 hit points and has solid mobility with 2 dashes and a charging slam ability. So the thing about it though is that it doesn't have a specialty at all. It has the ability to deal damage from range with its primary fire. It slams enemies at close range with its charge ability, and it quickly resurrects down teammates, and it blows up groups with its missiles and its player piloted exploding G maneuver. So I'll go into more about this, but if you're new to these sort of games and you don't have a very good aim ability, and like maybe even not the ability to improve on aiming at all, then that might be the time to try GUNTANK. So going on to it, how good is GUNTANK? Honestly, it's extremely bad. Though a lot of how bad it is depends on what rank you're at. If you're at a rank where people can aim well, it's horrendous. If you're at a rank where people can aim very poorly, then it gets disproportionately better value. Like I said, I know that people do tend to feel very strongly about the character being good when I think it's very bad, but I think the more you play, the more you'll realize, and I have lots of reasons for that too. So starting off with the positives, it has good mobility, good horizontal mobility anyway, with 2 dashes. The resurrection ability is convenient. It's not the best resurrection ability, but it's still pretty good. And its G maneuver is capable of winning fights, and it's a powerful one. And it is reliable as a fight-winning ultimate, which is convenient that it can carry the game when it ults in those situations. However, its true negative is that it has no specialty. And that's usually why you play mobile suits. Normally you play mobile suits because of like which one you pick is based off their specialty and them fitting the situation, and then they're justified being played by how high the damage numbers and how high their HP is and things like that. But in regards to GUNTANK in particular, its primary fire wants you to play at range, its charge ability wants you to be close, the resurrect wants you to play further back so you can be near the teammates that are going to get downed, and its missile ability wants you to be close because it's easier to hit projectiles from close. The damage numbers on it though are just very, very low. I don't have the exact numbers, but over a long period of time, which is GUNTANK's theoretical strength and damage, because it doesn't have to reload as often. It doesn't have a reload actually. It has a heat bar that goes up and then cools down. But in a long full fight, essentially, Pale Rider, for example, will be doing about 50% more damage. And this is when GUNTANK is doing like its maximum capability damage. Pale Rider also has the ability to single out a target, which is extremely valuable in these kind of games because targeted fire damage is what secures kills. And so that's really what it is not only is Pale Rider doing 50% more damage over time, but the damage it's doing is drastically more valuable. On Pale Rider, you'll be able to single out a certain enemy, hit them with headshots, pelt them down, and then they're dead, meaning the enemy only has 5 teammates left as opposed to 6. Whereas GUNTANK will just be slowly chunking damage on large groups. It's just not nearly like anywhere near as valuable. Like it's hard for me to express how important it is. Focus fire can carry whole games if you and your teammates are doing it. Its G maneuver is another part of it that is, while very good, it does leave you vulnerable, so you have to be careful with how that works. And in general, it has a really massive hitbox. I played as Sazabi a lot, and whenever I play against a GUNTANK, it was like literally a meal for me. I was never concerned about it in the slightest. Whenever I would see it, I would instantly go on it, and I would just shoot it with my shotgun. And it just had this way of like it's like it hitbox would reach out and grab the bullets and just take them like it wanted to die. It's just so big, and it's very square. The other thing about GUNTANK is that it loses at range to a lot of mobile suits. Like it'll lose at range to Ashimar, GM, Turn A Gundam, and then it also loses at close range to the other ones. So it loses to any character in their generally the range that they should be. So it'll lose to like, you know, Azaku, Barbatos, Exia at close range, and it'll even lose to the mid-range mobile suits, and generally in mid-range. It will only really essentially beat a mobile suit if it's allowed to be vastly outside of their range for a long period of time. So if it's right up next to a GM sniper and it just sits there like trying to shoot you, misses like 5 shots in a row, yeah, you'll kill it. If you're sitting next to, if a Zaku's at range and it stands there for 10 seconds as you pelt it down, you'll kill it. But that's just not going to happen, is really how I'm going with this. So moving on to the thing that actually is Guntank's strength is about the skill requirements. Its mechanical skill is very, very, very limited. And that's really what it is. It's a learner's suit. It's for people who don't know how to aim to play the game. Like I said, it requires very, very little skill to be able to reach like the majority of its aiming potential, and therefore the majority of its damage potential. In addition to this, it also has a lot of leeway in regards to its positioning, because it has good mobility and it has 1200 HP. So it's not going to, you're not going to be punished a lot for mispositioning like something like Exio would, for example. Its ultimate is in general not too difficult to use mechanically. Just learning how the momentum works on it is a bit funky. The bot missile is like the most mechanically skilled thing in the game for it. So that's also not the main source of damage though. So it's not like going to make that mechanical skill requirement bump up a lot. And its chargeability is also not mechanically intensive. As for game knowledge, while yes, of course, it does improve with good game knowledge understanding, its damage numbers are so low that just damage and HP and like everything isn't enough for what it is. So you get disproportionately low value for how well you understand the game on the character. It's just very, very generalist. So the only way to really grow as like a player on it is just understand the game a lot in general, how you should play. However, the one thing that will make you the best on it is if you understand the G maneuver very well, because you'll get like half of your value, or like even more than half of your value just from the ultimate alone. So, will Guntank get buffed or nerfed? I think we can all just agree that it's going to get buffed. We'd better hope it gets buffed. Its damage numbers are honestly pathetic, like laughable. It has no true strength, so there's no quantifiable reason to play it over another mobile suit. Essentially, specialties are the real reason you choose mobile suits in any given situations, as I was saying, and Guntank just doesn't have that, and nor does it have the numbers to back, nor does it have the numbers to just like, just brute force its way into where it shouldn't be. So we're likely to see flat damage buffs overall. That's what I think would be the most likely, is that they're just going to buff the damage or buff the HP, but it really needs a rework. I'm going to make a video about that. It's going to be releasing sometime soon about what Guntank needs changed about it to become a true, viable character. So that'll be coming out eventually. We might also, like I said, see a health buff or reductions on missile cooldown. It definitely doesn't need any nerfs, and so I don't expect it to get decreased in any way, nor do I expect it to see a reduction to its ultimate or movement. So in general, for enjoyment purposes, because that's what we're talking about next, as much as I've been talking smack on it, it's a lot of fun from just a gameplay perspective. I was surprised playing it, and I was like, wow, this is fun. And I think that's why people think it's good. People were playing against players in a elo system that hadn't been properly stratified at all. So there's really bad players, really good players, and the average player was going to be able to do a lot on Guntank against players that weren't that good because of that. Players they normally wouldn't even be able to play with in like whenever they play in other games, because they would be too low for them. And I think a lot of it was that, and then in addition to them, the character just being fun, so it felt good even though it was really bad. Honestly, something about just smacking enemies away from you is really satisfying. Slowly tickling your enemy to death with your damage is just kind of fun. And honestly, landing a good bot missile is really good too. Its ultimate's nice just because of the kill potential. It's fun to frag out with it, though inherently it gets less value out of something compared to something like Junkrat's tire in Overwatch, which is the very obvious equivalent, just because you can't resurrect characters in Overwatch. So if you get a 1 kill with a tire in the enemy spawn or whatever, or like their backline, it can't be rezzed, but in this game it can, assuming they don't have a mercy, right? But anyone can be rezzed in this game. As I was saying, it's fun to play, but it's really important to put this all into context before you guys get too excited. The enjoyment will die down very quickly if you start playing a competitive mode. If you're not playing in competitive mode, then, you know, have fun, guys. It's for fun. You know, just have fun. But if you are playing competitive, you're going to quickly realize how bad your character is, and other people will realize it too. They will flame you for playing it, and that's just not fun. I don't know. I personally don't really like being flamed just for no reason. So picking a character and then people getting mad at me for just picking it is not going to be a good way to like start off your day playing, you know. In general, because the character is so bad, you will find yourself falling to a rank that you don't belong in just because you're playing a character that's so bad. If your character is worth like 70% of what another character is, you're going to be at 70% of the rank which you belong, essentially. What essentially will happen is that your gameplay loop will turn into you spamming damage at range, watching as your team gets overpowered because you can't do anything. And then you'll finally farm your G maneuver and you are able to do something, you know? But that's only going to occur every other fight. So it's going to be a full fight of nothingness, a second fight of spamming and hoping that it lasts long enough that you can get your G maneuver. And like if your team's losing, you're going to be not able to get your ultimate as well as often because you won't be dealing as much damage. So moving on to final ratings, it's going to get an F tier for the high rank and a D tier for the low rank. The character is just very, very, very bad overall. You will get disproportionately better results at low tiers, to be fair. But those results just won't help you in the long run. It's like essentially just like cheating yourself into not being able to improve because it doesn't transfer into other mobile suits like at all. It's such a mishmash of various abilities that you're not actually learning like a specific type of gameplay. Like you're not learning flanking, you're not learning tanking, you're not learning healing, you're not learning long range damage dealing. It's all going to be not specialized enough to be applicable to the other mobile suits very well. It definitely won't help your aim, as it's really just aim assist built into a character. So yeah, and moving on from this, it's really like the most likely mobile suit to get reworked. So there's no point in grinding it out just so that the character can get changed and all the skills that you've developed won't mean anything anymore. In general, it will just get much, much less value as you improve. So that's not fun. That your character will literally get worse as you get better. So it's just bad in general, bad for improving in both gameplay and aim. And yeah, it's fine to pick for funsies, but as a main, it will benefit you in absolutely no way. Still think GUNTANK is the right main for you? Then make sure to check out my GUNTANK mobile suit guide I made for it. In the video, I talk about its abilities, its strengths and weaknesses, when to play GUNTANK, and how to play GUNTANK. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I appreciate you all.